Arise, arise, riders of Poland! Fell deeds awake, fire and slaughter. Spear shall be shaken, shield be splintered. A sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Ride now, ride now, ride to Vienna! Siege of Vienna was one of the most decisive battles in European history. At the gates of the city, the Ottoman power broke for good, and their century-old advances were reversed. This battle was covered many times on YouTube, but today we are looking at it with a different angle. The campaign went wrong on many points for the Ottomans, who went on to make more than a few critical mistakes, and we will be focusing on the faulty decisions made by the Ottomans during this campaign. So here is everything that went wrong with the Siege of Vienna. Before we get to the video, please subscribe to our channel, and if you liked it, leave a thumbs up. Enjoy! The year is 1683. At the time, the Ottoman Empire was doing fairly well for itself. It was in a brief period of resurrection. Sultan Mehmet IV was an incapable ruler who spent his days hunting rather than ruling. But at least he was wise enough to leave the state affairs to capable men. Köprülü family ruled in his stead. Grand viziers from this family stabilized the empire's finances and stopped factionalism, which had been plaguing the state affairs for the last century. In 1663, Ottoman armies defeated Austria and captured the province of Nitra, which is in modern-day Slovakia. And in 1669, Ottomans finally ended the siege of Candia after 21 years of devastating war. Following this, the empire scored another victory against Poland's Jan Sobieski and a minor victory against Russia. Within 20 years, the Köprülü family had defeated all its European neighbors and proved that the Ottomans were still a great power. In 1676, the family head, Grand Vizier Köprülü Fazıl Ahmet Pasha, died and was succeeded by Kara Mustafa Pasha. Mustafa Pasha was not a blood member of the Köprülüs. He was adopted into the family when he was 4. He had led armies in Polish and Russian campaigns and was a seasoned commander. He was no less capable than any of his predecessors, but with one major fault. Mustafa Pasha was an arrogant man. He often insulted his officers and ministers. Obviously, this did not make him popular in the government. He was also an ambitious man. Mustafa Pasha wanted to surpass the achievements of Sultan Süleyman and Mehmet the Conqueror, and go into the history as a great conqueror. So, as soon as he became the head of the state, he started waiting for an opportunity to prove himself. His opportunity came not long after. Austria at the time was busy with its rivalry against France, and its situation was worsened when a rebellion occurred in Upper Hungary. This was Mustafa Pasha's opportunity. He quickly allied with the rebels, but Sultan Mehmet was not big on declaring another war. A war meant more responsibilities, and the Sultan would rather go hunting in the woods. Due to his passion for hunting, he would go down to the history as Sultan Mehmet the Hunter. So Mustafa Pasha started employing different tactics. He bribed the Janissaries, the professional army of the empire, to pressure the Sultan into declaring war. Mustafa Pasha also ordered the governors of border towns to send the capital fake reports about Austrian raids. The fake reports and bribed Janissary commanders were more than enough to pressure the weak Sultan. The Austrian diplomats tried to persuade Sultan Mehmet to no avail. They even got a religious order from the highest authority of Islam, the Sheikhul Islam, that banned the war on Austria. Mustafa Pasha, however, was not amused by Austrian diplomats' actions and ordered his arrest. At the end, Mustafa Pasha managed to get a permission from Sultan Mehmed to march on border fortifications at the border. More specifically, the city of Győr. And he started mustering a massive army. 90,000 Ottoman troops were joined by 30,000 Wallachians, Transylvanians, and Moldovans. Then 50,000 riders came from Crimea, and finally 20,000 Hungarians, led by Thököly Imre, the Hungarian rebel, joined the Ottoman army. All these troops combined brought the Ottoman number to 190,000 combatants. Combined with the logistics units, it is said that the army numbered almost 500,000. This was the largest army the Ottoman Empire had gathered till that time. In fact, it was suspiciously large for a small campaign that was agreed to be against Győr. But as we said, Sultan Mehmed was too busy with hunting to notice anything. So the Ottoman army marched forth. Columns of troops covered the ground, accompanied with warbands and the neighs of horses. When the army reached Ottoman Hungary, Mustafa Pasha finally declared his real intention. He gathered his commanders in his tent and announced that the real target of the campaign was not Győr, but Vienna. Most commanders did not say anything, knowing that Mustafa Pasha did not take criticism lightly. Nonetheless, some of them were brave enough to speak up. Prince of Transylvania, Michael, urged the Grand Vizier that marching on Vienna would be dangerous without taking cities and fortresses on the way. He also added that the army lacked larger artillery pieces, since the campaign was not planned for Vienna. Prince Michael also said that Vienna resembled a plate of rice. One does not start eating the rice from the middle, he argued. He told that Vienna was in the middle, they had to first take cities around it. He also added that the army did not have enough supplies for a lengthy siege, simply because the initial goal wasn't the city itself. So the preparations weren't enough to take Vienna. Mustafa Pasha got mad at him, insulted him, and kicked him off the army. Transylvanians were sent away to the rearguard mission back to Ottoman Hungary. Another person that was against the campaign was the Crimean Khan, Murad Giray. He was also insulted, however the Grand Vizier could not kick him off, as Crimean Tatars made a significant portion of his army. Now that his authority was firmly established within his army. After that, he finally decided to inform the Sultan on the real goal of the campaign. When Sultan Mehmed got Mustafa Pasha's letter, the Sultan got mad. However, the campaign had already been started and announced. Now ordering to stop it would have resulted in a political turmoil. Mustafa Pasha had gotten away with his fait accompli. So, the massive Ottoman army marched on and besieged Vienna. The Austrian emperor had fled and left 16,000 men to defend his capital. Mustafa Pasha surrounded Vienna and sent the Crimeans to guard the crossing on the river Danube, to prevent any reinforcements from hitting the Ottoman army in the rear. The siege started slow, as expected. Without the presence of larger caliber guns, Ottoman army struggled to create breaches in the walls, and the siege dragged on. Meanwhile, the Austrians had managed to assemble a relief force. Around 50,000 Germans and 30,000 Polish troops under the Polish king, Jan Sobieski, marched forth. When Mustafa Pasha got the news of the large relief force, he did what every reasonable general with dreams of greatness did. He doubled down. Ottoman army was ordered to increase attacks on Vienna to take the city before reinforcements could arrive. On the other hand, he was not a complete and utter fool. He was a seasoned general. He trusted that the Crimean forces would be enough to hold the reinforcements back using the Danube. Danube was a wide river, and a smaller force could easily hold off a larger army. When the Polish force started crossing the river, the Crimean army was positioned as planned, deployed on a hill overlooking the Polish positions, and they watched as the Polish cavalry crossed. and they did nothing. It is said that one of the Crimean commanders approached his Khan and asked, "My Khan, wouldn't we stop the enemy if we charged now?" In return, Khan Murad Giray uttered these words, "Let the Ottoman know the value of Tatar. Let's see how Mustafa Pasha fares without us." Mustafa Pasha's arrogance and treatment of his officers costed him the Crimeans right there, as they deserted the Ottoman army, allowing the Polish army to cross unopposed. Even after receiving this news, Mustafa Pasha did not budge. He still had his best troops, and he doubled down once more. He ordered half of his army to continue the siege and assaults. Meanwhile, the other half was ordered to meet the relief force. This was the end game. The divided Ottoman army was crushed by the Polish cavalry charging downhill. The Ottomans were defeated so utterly that even the Grand Vizier's tent was captured. By the end of the day, the Polish king Jan Sobieski was sitting in Mustafa Pasha's chair as he wrote a letter to the Pope, writing these words, "I came, I saw, God conquered." Mustafa Pasha had not only dug his grave, but maybe the whole empires with his antics. His plans of grandiose and dreams of achieving great successes comparable to the great sultans came to an abrupt end. He had forced the empire to start a misguided campaign and angered his peers with his antics. His verbal abuses towards his generals ended with critical betrayals, and his stubbornness resulted in a total catastrophe. When Sultan Mehmet IV learned about the defeat, he understandably got mad. Mustafa Pasha had gone over his head and caused the most catastrophic defeat in the Ottoman history up to date. The Sultan thus ordered the execution of Mustafa Pasha, which turned out to be another mistake. Despite his glaring mistakes, Mustafa Pasha was the only person holding the Ottoman military together. After his execution, Ottoman army fell into a power vacuum, which allowed the Ottoman enemies to advance from all sides. Meanwhile, Sultan Mehmet himself kept spending all his time hunting in the woods, which did little to endear him to his subjects. He was removed from power by a coup a few months later. At the end, Battle of Vienna costed the Ottomans enormous military resources and large swathes of lands. Following this defeat, Ottomans had to fight the Great Turkish War against Poland, Russia, Austria, and Venice. Ottoman Empire spent the last of its resources fighting every single European neighbor and entered its phase of decline after this war. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel.